Alright, so we need to talk about matched pairs tests. But we basically already have. So matched pairs, remember what matched pairs is. You take two people that are like as similar to each other as possible and do like the same, like you do one thing to one of them and the opposite thing to the other and you measure. So do you remember like driving through the driving simulator? We talked about that. The same person went through while they were texting, and then again they went while they weren't texting. So that's matched pairs because what's the most similar thing to me? Which is me. So, and how many samples are it? So if I take a group of 20 people, have them all do both things, how many samples did I really take? How many groups of people did I use? Two. They don't ask that. That's it. No, let me rephrase. 40. I'm going to have everyone in this class drive through the simulator while they're texting, and then again later on drive through the simulator while they're not texting. So there's two things going on, but how many groups of people are there? One. It's a one sample. So this is a matched pairs t-test. So the idea is, and we'll go through these examples and like straighten out hopefully what's what, but a one sample t-test is the same as a matched pairs, because when you have matched pairs, there's only one group of people. So let's look at some of these examples. So if I look at number one, the question on all of these is this a two sample t-test or a matched pairs, which is a one sample t-test? So you're looking through, so if I'm looking through number one, I didn't put all the other stuff in there, just kind of trying to get to two sample or one sample. So I randomly sampled 30 kids from each teacher. So I'm going to have two separate groups of 30 students. One sample or two sample. That's a two sample t-test. So let's say like 2ST. But then read through number two and see if you can tell how that's different. So how many groups of students do I have? One. And they're going to do two different things, but I really only have one group of students. So that's a matched pairs, which would just be a t-test. Yeah.
Do you just ignore the bias in these problems?
What do you got? You got some bias?
Because what if you do it how long do you wait till you do the push-ups? If you're just tired after doing a certain amount of push-ups the first time.
It says 4 days, man.
I know, but what if?
You want to wait longer?
No, you don't.
No, yeah. Like some of these are crappy experiments. There's even worse ones as you read further. I just kind of got bored with. I didn't care about that.
So do they just word it so there's no bias?
They'll word them way better. All I'm trying to accomplish is can you determine one sample or two. So I didn't really worry about the other crap. But you're right. That would be, and you should randomize too. Like you should have half of them do one thing first and after the other thing first. You do not. All I want you to say is.
I'm just asking.
No, these are good questions. Tell me, for each of the rest of them, tell me if it's a two sample t-test or a matched pairs t-test. So I mean, you can just like one or two next to each one if you want. Okay. Nobody's like looking at it. It's like it's easy. Yeah, right. So I didn't make it to my son got sick, so I didn't make it to the thing. And I tried to watch it online, but I couldn't find it. It was like, there's one in Detroit that showed up. But I can see.
Yeah, I'll have to find it.
How'd it go?
It went pretty well. The end was kind of rough for us because when they ended up choosing teams for the on, the number 1 team chose the number 3 team, and then we ended up getting chosen for the 8th Alliance, which at that point was probably like the 10th best team. And we sat there and watched 1 and 3 look at each other and then cross them off the list. So we were going to be with 1 and 3, and then we ended up getting beat by them immediately.
That sucks.
But
I got to see what it was though.
Yeah, we did get our name out there.
That's cool.
So they know that we're really good at this one of these 3 specific tasks. So slowly we get chosen as
right.
Also, we discovered that one of the teams that beat us is funded by the army and then some cake making company. Yeah, there's some crazy And this team also, they controlled their climbing system, the Guitar Hero controller.
That's awesome.
And it was really cool.
That is really cool. Alright, number 3. One sample or 2?
1.
That is 100 students doing one thing, and then the same 100 students do another. That's match pairs. Number 4?
2.
That's 2, because that's 25. 2 different groups of 25 students. Number 5?
1.
That's a 1. So that's match pairs, because the same person is doing both. What? Can you say what?
I don't care.
MP. Number 6.
1.
That's a 1 sample. That's an MP, because it's the same person. What about 7?
2.
That's 2 different groups. Is that easy? Does that make sense? Like what the difference is? Alright. Write an example of each. So you make up your own example of a matched pairs. You make up your own example of a 2 sample. You don't have to just do like what I did. You don't have to give all the like the mean is, the standard deviation is. Just like a quick 1 sentence thing. Twin NASA?
Yeah, it was like one twin went into space and one like stayed.
Like humans, not like the rocket. Like one. And then what?
They were like testing their genetic makeup, how like space altered it. So
That is totally matched pairs. Yeah. Yeah. That's like the next best thing to just using yourself and be using your twin. What did they find?
I don't remember. It was like
It was a 7% gene difference.
7% what?
Gene difference.
Like 7% of the genes changed.
Their genes
yeah,
were
some of them like
yeah.
snapped back after like 6 months, and then some of them were like permanent.
Oh, so they did it with a bunch of twins?
No, just 2. Or one set.
Oh, some of the genes came
Yeah.
back and some didn't. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is cool. So in a minute, I'm going to have someone read one of theirs, but not tell us which one. And then
Can I read it?
have the rest of us try to determine which one theirs is. Sure. Not yet, though. Pretty excited about yours?
I mean, it's not like anything special. I just kind of wanted to talk. Yeah. God, this.
I'm not sure, dude. But
Alright, well, I'll just assume that I know it.
I'll go with it. Alright, Nick, what do you got? Alright, so listen to Nick's, and you got. Don't tell us which one it is. And then you guys tell Nick if it's matched pairs or 2 samples.
So I think that people do better on written exams than multiple choice. So I get 60 people, have them take a written, and then a day later they take a multiple choice test.
Matched pairs or 2 sample? Matched pairs. Someone else give me one.
Okay. We want to see if Nike shoes help you jump higher. And we asked 20 students to jump using Nike shoes 10 times, and 5 days later, jumping 10 times again using shoes from Walmart.
Matched pairs or 2 sample? Matched pairs. So does that make sense? Alright. Easy enough. So turn it over. Let's go through an example. The thing with matched pairs is that it is a 1 sample T. I'm going to put matched pairs in parentheses just to kind of remind you.
Is anything different?
A little. So, I mean, I don't know. Kind of. Just let me.
Why don't you?
That question really threw me off for some reason. Let me regroup. Let me try again. So they'll very often, and it's hard to read all this on here, I know, but I didn't. Okay, good. So I gave you a student. I had the one student eat in normal conditions, took him 5 minutes to eat lunch. Then I had him eat in 90-degree weather. Took him 4 minutes to eat lunch. So like if the school decides, hey, we want lunch shorter, so we're just gonna make it super hot, then people will eat faster. So, but what I have here is 2 lists of data, 2 rows of data. I'm trying to do a one sample t-test. So in a one sample t-test, what you want to look at is the difference between the 2. So I want to make a new column down here, a new row down here. And you can call it like 90 degrees minus normal, or you can call it normal minus 90 degrees. And it doesn't matter, you'll end up at the same place at the end. But the path to get there looks a little different. So I'm going to do 90 minus normal. You could do the other way if you want, but you have to make your own new list of data. And then I'm just going, okay, this is -1, this is -1, it's 2, -2, 0, -2, -2, -1, -1, -1. Then I don't have like the mean and the standard deviation. I can find them, but if I have a list of numbers, what do I do with my calculator to run the test? I put them in my L1, so I go stat, edit, L1, and I don't care about these numbers anymore. These mean nothing. The only point of those was to get the difference between them. Something else I should mention, if you look at this and you're like, oh, it's 2 rows of data, it's a 2 sample t-test, you do the whole process. If you do that process correctly, you'll still get 3 out of 4. So if you do a 2 sample t-test when you should have done a matched pairs, they just take 1 point off. You don't get the whole thing wrong as long as you do the rest of it correct. Yeah, that's kind of nice.
Oh my gosh. Listen to the video later.
I said it twice. In like a 30-second span, I said it twice.
Yeah, I got really distracted by something on my calculator.
Are you taking the AP test?
Yeah.
Okay. So if this is a 1 sample t-test.
Yeah.
If you got that wrong and you did a 2 sample and you did it correctly, you'd still get 3 out of 4. Got it?
Yeah, I got this.
All right. All right. So when you go to do this part, I'm going to put mu d, and that stands for difference. You can just put mu. Like, that's fine if you just want to put mu. But I'm going to put mu d for the difference, because that helps me remember that I'm like really looking at what happened when I subtracted those. So the difference in the population mean, like eating time, I guess. What would HO be? Okay. If they're the same, what's the difference between them? 0. So you're right. We just have to phrase it a little bit.
So the actual value.
So the H naught just starts off by assuming those are the same. There's no difference before and after, which means the difference between them is 0. HA. So the significance test. So they're asking if the data supports the idea that students eat faster in 90 degrees. If students eat faster in 90 degrees, and we did 90 minus normal, would the difference be positive or negative? Think about what faster means. Faster is less time. So it's got to be there. So just imagine like 90 minus normal. Well, if it's truly faster in the 90 degree weather, this number might be like 4 minus 5, a smaller number here. So you'll end up with a negative. So this would be the difference between them is a negative number. Yeah. If you did normal minus 90, it's positive. Yeah. And And so then your t value will end up positive, mine will end up negative, but our p values will be the same. That's the hard part. That's the lesson right there. The rest of it's the same as, anything I'm going to keep going. But are there any questions I can answer on that setup? Yeah.
Just make sure, why is it like that?
So because I did 90 degrees minus normal, and I'm testing at 90 degrees makes people eat faster, which is less time. So you'd be doing a smaller number minus a bigger number. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right, conditions. I'm going to have to assume SRS because whoever wrote this question didn't state anything. Jackass. Is there a large enough sample? No. Does it say the population is normal? It does not. Yeah. Is your teacher trying to make this a pain? Yes. So what do I have to use? It's not that hard to do it. It takes like 30 seconds.
So that's how my hand writes and
Man, you guys got a tough life. What'd you say? Right. What did she say?
She said you look good today. She keeps talking.
So you don't have a tough life. What's the third condition? Population standard deviation unknown. Alright, test statistic equals statistic minus parameter over standard deviation of statistic. So that's T. What's the statistic? So we're doing a one sample mean test. What's the statistic for means? How do I represent that? Two people mumbled next spot. What's the parameter? Mu. What's the standard deviation of a one sample mean?
Standard deviation over that.
Yep.
Thank you.
At this point, I don't really know X bar. I mean, I could find it, but at this point, I would go to my calculator and run the test, and it'll tell me X bar, standard deviation, T, P value, all that stuff. So go to stat tests, and this is good for remembering how to do it when it's in the list too. So hopefully you guys all have them in the list. In L1. You guys all right?
No, it's one thing.
I'm here.
Yeah. Square root. Alright, we're good.
Okay. So we got this,
I didn't know that change.
and then go stat tests, t-test, and we want to do it from data, remember, not from stats.
Right.
This is like your mu sub 0, or h sub 0, so we start off assuming the difference between the two things is 0. Please, and I'm going to tell the calculator, please look at L1 for the data. I can get that to type in L1. We think less than, although if you did it the other way around, then you're switching it maybe. And then calculate, and now I can fill in all the stuff on my sheet, because now I know X bar, now I know the standard deviation, now I know T, like now I can finish writing my sheet. Did everybody get to this point in their calculator? Questions? Alright, so then X bar is negative 0.9. What's mu? 0. Standard deviation is 1.2 divided by the square root of 10. So T comes out to negative 2.4.
2.38.
Oh, okay.
So if I had done 2.4,
So we go different spots.
every single time.
Sometimes it doesn't go all the way.
Yeah.
2.377.
It's always opposite 2.4.
So the AP test, in AP Calc, they say 3 decimal places every single time. In stats, they say round to where it makes sense. Which, again, like, what the hell does that mean? So anyway, how do I find p-value? TCDF. It was a less than test, so am I using negative 999, comma negative 2.4, comma what? Comma 9. So remember, if it's a 2 sample, you have to run the test to get the degrees of freedom, but if it's a 1 sample, I can just do n minus 1. Do I have to double this p-value? No, because it's a one-sided test. So the p-value is 0.02. Alpha is 0.05. So my drawing would have 0 in the middle. Over here, x bar equals negative 0.9, t equals negative 2.4. Shade. Like this is all the exact same as a one sample t-test, right? Once we got past the beginning.
So I can just put mu equals 0, not mu.
Did you call it mu up at the top? Whatever you call it at the top, you should put that there. So like I put,
I can use mu without the mu.
yes.
Okay. Just to check.
I like it because I helps remember I'm like comparing the differences. Right.
What if I call it mu at the top and use something different?
You can call it like mu nig if you want. I mean, as long as you call the same thing at every spot.
Please don't.
Wait, we do that for the second where it says t equals x bar minus mu then? Like if we put like a little d next to it, put there.
Technically, you probably should. You'd be okay if you didn't.
That's a ting.
Let's see. Mr. Heath, start the conclusion for me.
Let's see here. Since p-value is less than alpha, we reject HL.
Theanna, what's next?
We do have enough evidence to support each other.
Meaning, Sydney, turn on the music and tell me the next part.
We do not have enough evidence to support meaning.
We did that part already.
I was writing it myself because I didn't know the answer.
Blame Colin, he kind of called you out.
How long did you finish it then? So I can finish it.
I started it.
Colin already went.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Does anyone want to finish it? Kaylee, you want?
Yeah. So meaning we think that the time it takes to eat is less than 0.
Yeah, so I put like, no, not the time it takes to eat is less than 0. I can't eat in less than 0 minutes. The difference between them is less than 0. So you don't even have to make it that complicated though. So what it really means is we think if we make it hotter, people eat faster. So I'm going to write that. Meaning we think the hot temperature leads to eating faster. Like you can put it in just kind of logical, what makes sense words instead of meaning we think mu t is negative. Questions on this one anywhere? I'm not worried about any part except for that top part. So specifically, are there any questions on the top part?
And if it was right, how would I phrase that? Something that we don't think that temperature has.
Yes. We don't think temperature makes people. We don't think a hot temperature makes people eat faster.
Joel, what's up with you?
My dad used to say it's all the time on car rides. Right. Yeah, and as I was recording it in the chest, like.
Because I have a blue marker all over my hands.
My dad was the first time.
It's actually working.
Alright.
Oh yeah, I can't say that.
Due tomorrow is the first problem and the last problem. Very first one, very last. Tomorrow we'll check that, practice a little bit more, we got some multiple choice stuff to look at, and then I'll give you your take-home test tomorrow. I mean, actually, you guys just want it now?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
I don't care when you... It's still going to be due before spring break, so... You might as well have it now, I guess? So if you're going to be gone, like you're missing Friday or Thursday or the rest of the week or whatever, make sure you get to it before you leave. Except you don't have to, because you're not going to. So it is due before spring break. So if you come back, like I'm giving you plenty of notice. If you come back after spring break and hey, why didn't you turn it in? Oh, it's after Friday. Like that doesn't cut. You knew you had to turn it in. You need to take a picture of it and email it to me. Then that works. But you gotta get it to me before spring break. Sure. You can also come to school.
I'm not gonna be here Thursday or Friday. They're going up to MSU for a thing, and then Friday I have.
So you can bring it up there or you can sit on not all, but most. Hey, crap, mother of
What?
No, it's fine. I meant to put a question to make you define a p-value, but I forgot.
You can just tell us if you want.
That's alright. That's alright.
Should I get some extra credit if I need to?
No. Did you guys pass it by? Wait, did you not get one?
I got one.
No,
I gave the thing a 7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So I gave them 2 separate.
Alright.
How does this happen every time?
I really don't know.
Really?
I really think it was
Yeah, I did.
Because you handed me the license.
Downtown.
Come on, Joel. I like Before I forget, what's the cup homework today?
These are mind-blowing questions you're asking me. Like,
I need
3 days ago, that's a long time.
No, for today.
Oh, for today?
Yeah, because I already got the packet thing.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that I get Julia one and she's right here.
I'd
be like,
Yeah.
I haven't taught it yet.